Going live now. But
close this door.
Thanks.
Mommy? Yeah, baby. Mommy? Mommy?
You have $50?
Yeah, I do.
What's that shit called? Hey everybody, we'll get started in just 2 more minutes. I just want to wait till 8:30. And I see we still have a little lag, but for those of you that hate lag, we're gonna start doing, hi Rudy, we're gonna start doing Zoom on Friday. We'll still do the stream, but we're also going to do Zoom Friday. So Tuesday is going to be stream, and then Friday's going to be stream. And then if you want the opportunity to talk, we'll also do a Zoom chat on Fridays, starting this Friday. And it'll be nice to see everyone's face or voice, because you know, you don't have to reveal yourself. Okay. Just give it a few more minutes. We still only have a few people here. And papers. I think if you handed in a paper on the day it was due, I should have got it back to you. I might have missed it. If I did, just let me know, and I'll get it right back to you. I'm still working through some of them that came in late today, and any ones I missed, I'll also be doing today. And sometimes I noticed with the drafts, people that ironically, people that handed them in early, I kind of missed them and wound up getting them back. Some of you had to let me know, because I was only looking on the day it was due. So maybe if you handed in your final draft early, I might have missed it. Anyway, really, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me. If you have any concerns at all, don't be like, oh, he doesn't want me to nag him. I do want you to nag me. Please nag me. All right, so it's 8:30, and we have a lot to do. In fact, the first thing I'm going to say is we have so much to do that I don't want to have this paper due so soon. If anyone objects to me pushing back the due date, let me know in the chat. But I'm thinking instead of having this paper due next Tuesday, why don't we have it due on the 3rd, okay? So we'll have the rough draft. I'm going to change it right here to 4/3, okay? So that'll give us an extra day to get ready for the SA3 draft. And then the final draft will just be due on 4/21. And that'll mean that the SA4 rough draft is going to come pretty quick after, and we don't have a lot of time left in the semester, but you know what? It's fine. If we have to do 2 papers in a row, that's better than rushing through a paper, I think. Anyone have a problem with that? Hi, Helen. Good morning, Helen. I don't imagine anyone's going to have a problem with me pushing it back a day. So let's get started. Let's look at your lists of the public and the private. And now, I'm not going to go through every single thing. I just want to kind of go through and make sure things are actually public and private, and also make sure that and talk about what would make a good essay and what might be kind of like I'm going to warn you, if you pick this, it might cause some trouble. Okay, so, oh, and one last thing I want to say before I get started with this is, please don't worry. If you haven't handed in your essay yet, just hand it in, okay? Special circumstances, if it's late, just hand it in, okay? So let's look at the list. So I'm just looking through this first list that someone handed in. I made them anonymous. I'm not sure who this was. Let's look at firefighting services, okay? So fighter services are indeed public, right? But no one is going to argue that we should privatize firefighting, right? So first of all, what does it mean that it's public? It means that the government pays for it. The city, it's the fire FDNY, the Fire Department of New York City, right? No one is going to suggest that we should have private firefighting companies that work for profit. Why? Because if your house is on fire, you don't want to call up the private company and they have to run your credit card before they'll come out and put out the fire in your living room, right? Okay? So yes, firefighting is public, but it should probably stay public, okay? Healthcare was on my list, and healthcare is a good essay, right? Because Medicaid is public, but there's also private insurance. Morning, Daisy. But as you know, there are a lot of people who say it should be all public sector, right? It should be all public sector. There should be no private health insurance. So that would be a good essay to pick. Transportation is also good, right? Should there be more money for the MTA, right? Should there be more money for the MTA? Should there be, so subways are public sector, but should there be more subways? Should we expand the public sector? More subways, more buses. Okay, and then the Army and public housing versus private housing we already went over. But public housing would be a good essay, right? What would be the essay? The essay would say, we have some public housing and some private housing, but we should have more public housing, right? We should build more public housing projects, but we should improve the ones we have, okay? Nuclear power is in the public sector. And then TV, should we have more public television? That's possible. Let's see. Restaurants, movie theater. This is all correct. Postal delivery, Army bank school. The United Nations is public. That's true. Law firms. Law firms are public and private. Yeah, let's look at an example. What's an example? So most law firms are private, but you can get a public defender, right, to defend you. And you can also your prosecutor will work for the government, right, if you commit a crime. Okay, let's take a look at this one. This is someone's that emailed it to me as a PDF. Please stop emailing me things as PDFs because they're hard for me to open and manipulate. Okay, this one I wanted to point out. So companies. Facebook is private. Google, they think the student thinks is public. It is not. It is a private company. Google is not part of the U.S. government. Why might you think it's public? Some companies are publicly traded. That just means you can buy stock in them on the stock market, but they are still private companies. Okay, here's Kelly. Uh-oh, Kelly did a PDF too. Okay, so I'm just going to make a quick list of ones that would be easy to write essays about right now. And if you have your own idea and it's not on this list, that doesn't mean you can't write about it, okay? So healthcare, should it be public or private? Transportation. Should there be more money for public transportation? Housing. Should there be more money for public housing? And then we're going to keep prisons on here. And we're going to put schools on here. Oh, there was another one that I was going to put on here. Sorry, this is the one I thought of. The marijuana. So right now, if you think about it, if you're a drug dealer, right, that is the most private sector thing you can be. Would you agree? You are in no way work for the government, right? And you have in no way restricted. There is no laws governing your drug dealing ability. I mean, there are laws, but like you can there's no FDA. You don't submit your marijuana to the FDA and be like, is it okay for me to sell this? You just sell it, right? But is there a public sector alternative to drug dealing on the street? Yes, there is. It's legalizing marijuana would make it part of the public sector. Legalize is public sector. Because then you have to go to a dispensary, which the government runs. So I think that would be it's an interesting example of public sector versus private sector. Okay, so are there any questions about this so far? If there are, please just throw them in the chat right now or as soon as you hear this. I think the delay is a little shorter today. Maybe it's like 10 seconds. Let me just give one more glance through because I swear there was something I forgot. But maybe not. Our emergency, yes. So Rose, all emergency services are public. And like I was saying at the top, you don't really want to make them private because if you have an emergency, you don't want to have to pay to get your emergency solved, right? You don't want to have to run your credit card before they'll come put out your fire or do the defibrillator. Am I saying that right? Any EMTs? But obviously there are private sector police. You know, these are the security guards are private sector police after all, right? Okay, so if you think about it, the police work for the government, the security guards work for the security company, public versus private, okay? And so this is a pretty short list that I have here, but it is not an exhaustive list, by which I mean complete. But it is a list of things that I think would be easy to write about. And that's going to be the homework for Friday, is to pick your topic. Okay, that's homework part 1. Okay, so let me just write that down. Homework part 1. Pick your topic. Okay. Now homework part 2. Find some research. All right, so I want to talk about, now is the part where we're going to talk about research, and this is why I want to give us another day on this, because I don't want to gloss over this. This is important. So, you know, when I was a young man, research meant you went to the library and you found an article, and it was a good article because you found it in the library, right? Obviously, what's changed now is the internet, so people use Google, right? And they Google something, and they get sources. Some of them are good, and some of them are not good, okay? So how do you decide what's a good source and what's not a good source? There are different standards you can apply. And I don't think any of them are perfect, but I feel like this one is easy. So the standard is going to be, has the work been published in print? Okay. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's take the New York Times. I'm going to go to the New York Times website. Okay. And you're going to notice this is obviously not in print. This is on the internet, right? So how do you cite it? I would rather, how do you know it's a good source? Because while it exists on the internet, you can also go to the newsstand and buy it in print. So it's both, right? So the standard is you can find it on the internet, but it also has to exist in print, okay? And if you're not sure, just ask me, okay? Now, the next thing I want to say when we talk about research is do not use Google, right? Instead, go to a reputable source. This way you know you're going to get a good article. Go to a reputable source and find the little magnifying glass up here. Click on it, and you'll get a little search bar. And let's say I'm doing public healthcare. You just put your search term in there, and you're going to get a list of articles, okay? The health system we'd have if economists ran everything. So that could be a good essay article for healthcare. Or if you're interested in healthcare, which I hope some of you are because it's a good topic, you might think about something like another term for public healthcare is single payer healthcare. And then here are a bunch of good articles, okay? Let's look at a few other sources. So the New York Times is good. And if you guys have any sources, please just let me know in the chat what might be a good source. Some other sources I've used are the New Yorker. So if you go to the New Yorker, and then you find, again, there's the little magnifying glass. You click on it, you say single payer healthcare, and then you get a list of good articles, okay? Is healthcare a right, okay? And then I've also used The Atlantic. So once again, you would find your little magnifying glass and you would search single payer healthcare and find, well, it's loading, but it'll be with us. Oh, you know why? I got my internet thing blocking it. There we go. And here's a list of good articles on single payer healthcare. Don't just pick the first one, pick the best one or the one that interests you the most. Okay? And then these are all kind of left-leaning sources. If you want more right-leaning, if you're more of a Republican, you can, I've also used The Economist. It's not, I wouldn't say it's right-wing, but more right. So they search, they have the search thing here. And then if you want to go even further to the right, this is for, especially for people who prefer the private sector, that's typically the right. Then you go with the New Republic. I'm sorry, not the New Republic is far left. I forgot. I'll put it in an email. Not the New Republic, not the Nation, but the... If anyone can guess what I'm thinking of, let me know in the chat. Okay, so let's see, where's our homework? Our homework is find some research. So you're going to have to send me a link to an article or two that you'd like to use for your topic. And then you have to write a correct citation of your research. If you look at the Talbot, I have, this is what a citation should look like, okay? I actually did this in the correct citation format. You should have the author's name, first name, last name, right? Followed by the title of the article in quotes, okay? And then the title of the publication in italics. We talked about this already, right? So you want to go with the whole thing is the magazine that it's in. And then part of that is the articles, and this is the name of the article, goes in quotation marks. And then you put a period, and then you put the date it was published. And remember, and that's it, okay? Now, if you need a resource for this, right, and this is the resource for this. We're using Purdue University's MLA style guide, okay? So they just seem to have the best, they're the most internet savvy university or something. What you're going to do ultimately is, oh, and look, I did it wrong. You got to put the day for, I did it American style. I guess the MLA does it European style, fancy schmancy. So they would, you want to say actually 13 June. I know that's a little counterintuitive because we don't usually do it that way, but it does make more sense to put the day before the month. Okay, so again, here is a list, and I'm going to send you, guys, a link to this. So you're going to put the author's name, last name, first name, the title in quotes, and then the title of the publication. This is also the New York Times. And then you want to copy in the website, and then you want to put the day you accessed it. Okay, so that's a little different from the Talbot, but I don't think it's that hard. So just copy and paste your web address, and then the day you accessed it, right? So if you, whatever day you logged in, pretty simple, right? So this should be a little different. So it was published on the 22nd, but the person actually opened it up on the 29th. Okay. Let me go over what we're doing one more time. Okay, so you're going to pick a topic. So I would suggest one of these topics, or run a different topic by me. And then find some research using the technique that I just suggested, like search the New York Times, search the New Yorker, search the Atlantic, search the Economist. Don't use Google, please. And then cite your research, okay? Using this style, right? So this is how you would have cited Talbot, right? And then you would just here you would just add the website and the day you accessed it. Right. So also, if you pick prisons, you can't use Talbot. You have to find some other research on prisons. But there's plenty. And in fact, Talbot gives you a very strong hint, right? Talbot says in her essay that she is actually looking at this dude right here, this guy Chang from the Times-Picayune. The Times-Picayune is like that is the newspaper in New Orleans. So you would just, if you want, you can just steal her source, right? You can say, you can just go to the Times-Picayune and search for this guy Chang's article. She also talks about Adam Gopnik in the New Yorker. So that'd be a different way to research. Just find the sources that Talbot used and cite them directly. Okay, so any questions, let me know in the chat or let me know privately. Also, remember, you can also G-chat me if you want to speak with me directly. I'm available via G-chat. G-chats. I haven't got 0 G-chats, but I highly recommend it if you're confused and want a more interactive way. Or you can also, on Friday, we're going to do the extra Zoom for people that want face-to-face, the optional Zoom. Okay? And, you know, that will be nice because I have no idea if you guys are, if this is coming through. My points are coming through. But this is homework. This is for Friday. Let me just make this homework part 3. Okay, is anyone unclear about what I'm asking you to do for Friday? If you are, let me know in the chat. But I'm going to move on to the last thing we're going to do today, which is talk about charter schools. okay? Charter schools, the reading I asked you to do for today. So let me just see something here. If you get out your Talbot, or open it up in the Google Doc, you're going to be able to see what I'm actually looking at here. What I've underlined. So these underlines, if you open your copy up in the doc, in the folder, the shared folder, you're going to see this. And we're going to look at some key quotes from this dude, Peterson. Look, you can see here again, the Peterson is in MLA format. This is the style I'm asking you to use, except I screwed up. Sorry. Let me just fix this. Peterson, Paul E. Actually, don't look at this. Isn't right because I didn't put this in quotation marks. Never mind. Don't look at this one. Look at the Talbot. That one's a little wonky. Okay, so let's talk briefly about. So if you want to do schools, do charter schools. Because you can't say we should ban all public schools and just have private schools. Why can't you say that? Because not everyone can afford private school. So what are charter schools? Does anyone know what a charter school is? Has anyone been to a charter school? A charter school is basically you have a certain amount of money that goes to your child's education. Let's say it's $10,000 a year for your child goes to the public school, and then they hire teachers and they pay for the building, whatever, for the public school. But some parents are like, I don't like the public school. Give me that money, and me and a bunch of other parents are going to take that money and start our own school called a charter school. So this is private because it's not run by the government, but it's not totally public because you're still using the government's money. But instead of the government running the school, it's run by a private entity. So we're going to call it the private sector because it's more in the private sector than a public school. Okay? Now, I know some of you might have to go at 9, so I'm going to just go through this really. Does anyone have to go at 9? Let me know. If not, I'll go a little slower. And if yes, then I'm going to start earlier next time. Okay. So let's take a look at this first quote. You should be able to find it because I made it bold in the how do you say, the document you're looking at right now. So Milton Friedman made the case for choice and competition in his seminal 1955 article on school vouchers, writing, "School choice would bring a healthy increase in the variety of educational institutes available and competition among them. Private initiative and enterprise would quicken the pace of progress in this area as it has in so many others." So let's take a look at how Peterson's schools essay. I got my apostrophes all wrong here. So how would it work for Peterson? Peterson would say his thesis would be public schools should be more private, right? And his reason 1 would be competition is good for schools. And if you think about that, he's saying something like, if I'm a public school teacher, let's say I'm a bad public school teacher, right? And your kid is in my class. What can you do about it, right? What options do you have? In New York City, you could maybe find a different public school, but in a lot of places, that's it. The public school is the public school. You're stuck. You're stuck with sending your kid to a bad school. So, and the school doesn't care, right? Because they're like, you have to send your kid here anyway. Why should we improve? If you're unlucky, right? Now, some of you are going to argue that that's a cynical way to think about teachers. Teachers want to do a good job, right? But someone like Friedman would argue, if there's no competition, there's no incentive for the school to get better. So you need to have competition. You need to have charter schools in order for there to be an incentive to improve. Because if the kids have to go to the school anyway, you're just gonna keep going there. Travis is saying, report you. What do you mean by that, Travis? Can you explain? Okay. Reason 2. Competition is good for schools. Let's see. So let's look at another quote, and this would be the quote that supports that point. And then his next quote, at least the one that I found interesting, was this one. Union opposition to vouchers was so intense that it opened the way for another choice reform, charter schools. When first enacted in Minnesota in 1989, charters appeared to be nothing more than a safe place for teachers to try out new ideas that public schools could adopt. So what would be the next? How do we analyze this quote? Well, he's saying charter schools. I think I see what Travis is saying. Right. What do you do about bad teachers? You report them, but the school itself. Friedman's point is if there's only one option for education and you report the bad teacher, the school might get rid of that teacher, but the school itself doesn't have that big of a motivation to get the best teachers, right? Should it be up to the parents to constantly be reporting teachers? Shouldn't that be the school's job, right? You see what I'm saying? And Friedman saying if there's no competition, if they're the only game in town, why do they care? And again, other people would argue that's cynical. Of course they'd care. Why did they get into teaching in the first place if they don't care? But I think you see Friedman's point. And here's his second point is that charter schools are a safe place for teachers to try out new ideas. So it's the second point he would make is innovation. Okay. And if you think about it, the government isn't usually the place where innovation happens. It's usually the private sector, especially according to people who are pro-private sector, right? Travis, yes, it's an ongoing process, right? So competition is good for schools. They're able to innovate. Sherry's saying, hi, Sherry. Sherry, you might be coming in a little late. But yeah, those of you that are coming in late, I think you can still watch these streams. Although please do watch them live because I do want you to interact in the chat. And the lag seems to be getting much better. I think it's only a few seconds today. But I do need you guys to show up and say you're here, but you can also rewatch them. Let's say rewatch. I do not believe they get deleted. I think the recording of them is saved, which is nice. That's another nice thing about YouTube. And then reason number 3 would be, oops, that's Talbot. If we look a little deeper to the other part, I've made bold. The last quote we'll look at today is, a different story emerges from central cities. Big city schools are in big time trouble, and many families send their children to their local school more out of necessity than choice. Okay, so this is again that point that I'm trying to make, that you don't choose a public school, it's just the only option, okay? For these families, the charter school option often holds strong appeal. Compared to district schools, the charters are generally perceived to be smaller, safer, friendlier, and more often than not a better place to learn in contrast to charters in suburban areas. Central city charters typically embrace the no excuses model of teaching and learning, strict dress codes, rigorous discipline, extended school days and years, and high expectations for performances on standardized tests. Though critics complain that these schools are too restrictive, studies regularly reveal they are outperforming their traditional public school counterparts. The charter advantage seems to be particularly striking for African American students from low-income families. Hi, Mommy. Hey, thanks everyone that was lurking. Flavio and hi, guys. Yeah, definitely let me know you're here, because that counts. I want to know who's making it. It's like we still, just because we are on distance learning doesn't mean you don't need to show up. But we're almost done here. Let's just say, what would this last point be? This last point would be that charters are a better inner city option. Okay, so those would be this would be, and then he would have a conclusion. So if Peterson was writing essay 3, he would have a thesis that public schools should be more private. They should be charter schools. Remember, charter schools are not private schools, but they're more in the private sector than public schools. Okay, so that's why it counts. And then he gives the first reason is competition, the second reason is innovation, and the final reason is he says it's a better inner city option. Okay, and we can get into more detail about this. On Friday when we do the Zoom, those of you that want to, because I'm going to make it optional, I want to think about the philosophy behind the public sector versus the private sector, okay? What are the two philosophies? And Peterson hits on some ascent, like competition. That is why people like the private sector, because of competition. And then why do people not like the private sector? Because you have to buy into it, right? The very reason we don't make fire departments private is because everyone has the right to not burn, right? And those of you guys who pick healthcare, you're like, shouldn't everyone also have the right to a doctor, right? That's why people say it should be in the public sector. Okay, so let me just do a recap. I'm going to do a recap now, and then I'm going to email you a recap around before noon, okay? Any questions? Chat me. Let everyone know, because if you have a question, everyone can see this chat. Someone else is probably wondering about it too. Okay, so what is this? These are the top topics. The top topics that I would suggest. Not because they're the best topics, but because they are the easiest topics. Now, some of you have interests that you want to explore. If it's not one of these topics, that's great, but just send me an email and run it by me because I don't want you chasing after something that's just going to cause you a big headache, okay? And then for Friday, this is the homework for Friday. Pick a topic, so either one of those topics, or let me know if you have a different idea. Find some research, okay? Please don't use Google. Please go to a good source. I'll write a list of good sources. And search the source, okay? And then cite the research. So you can either use, I closed my MLA tab like an idiot, but just basically it should look like this. Should look like this, okay? And then you're just going to put the website and the date accessed, okay? Oh, other big thing is I pushed the due date back for this to the 3rd. So I'll have 2 more classes to talk about this. This is the due date for essay. 3 rough draft got pushed back a day. Mommy's saying, can we use Blackboard instead? Mom, what do you want to use Blackboard for? To hand in papers? Or for, can you just, what do you want to use Blackboard for? Can you just expand on that? Yes, we can do whatever you want. But just let me know what exactly it is you want. We'll see about Blackboard for papers. And then, so I was just what's due, and then cite the research, and I think that's it. And you guys can also start. You guys can also start writing essay 3. I mean, I pushed it back, the due date back, but that doesn't mean you should wait that long necessarily. Okay, Mommy's saying instead of YouTube, is there live streaming on? Okay, so that is the end of the lesson. We're still trying to figure out. I am going to give us a YouTube alternative, which is the Zoom option. I am not aware that we can replicate this on Blackboard, although I do know that there is some kind of Blackboard class, but I think it's just texting. I don't know. I didn't really like Blackboard when I looked at it, but if someone wants to make the case for Blackboard, please do. This is a work in progress. Oh, no, there isn't. But yeah, I will look at Blackboard again. If anyone wants to let me know the advantages of Blackboard, I feel like Blackboard could be good for handing in papers. Does that sound good? Blackboard to hand in papers. That seems to be the way it's most useful. I also know that you guys are gonna take your final on Blackboard, the final exam. So we will have to set up more Blackboard. So now you're pro YouTube, okay? Yeah, that's the thing is like I don't want to. Everything has its pluses and minuses, so. That's why I'm trying to kind of use a little bit of both. We'll keep the live stream, we'll add Zoom, and then maybe we'll add Blackboard for handing in papers. Shay says there, yes, I will. I haven't even set up my own Zoom yet. As you can see, I relocated, so I was a little busy. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Zoom's just going to be Fridays. Yeah, and you can come back to the YouTube. Okay, so I'm signing off. I'm gonna get ready. I'm gonna do my 909s. Last thing I'll say is, if you're still waiting for your essay, give me to the end of today. I said I'd get them back Tuesday. There's still a lot of Tuesday left. But if you haven't got it back by Wednesday, then I just missed your email, which is probably why we should be using Blackboard. But Rudy's making a good point that not everyone knows how to use. This is why I like YouTube. Everyone can use YouTube. You just click a link and you're there, right? I feel like it's pretty accessible to everyone. But yeah, I'm gonna get you Blackboard in the mix. Let me just jump. I'm going to join the chat. We'll try to use Blackboard for some things, but keep the live stream. Okay, so I think basically the idea is we're going to just add things, not replace things. So I'm going to keep the live stream. We're going to add Zoom on Friday. And that's going to be optional. And then I'm going to think of ways we can incorporate Blackboard. Jade saying, did I get your paper? Did you? Yeah. If you know, I didn't get your paper back. It's Jade. So like I said, if you give me to the end of the day, give me to the end of Tuesday, and if I still haven't got back to you Wednesday, let me know. Just send me another link to it. I think, Jade, that you sent me you did it in Google Docs. Some of the Google Docs, I might not be aware that you have, it's a final, you know what I mean? You might have just been revising your rough draft, and I might not have realized it was the final draft. Anyway, we'll get it all sorted out. Any other questions? So here's your list of things to do, right? And then, and there is no reading actually for Friday. So just focus on this. And then my list of things to do is I'm gonna look at Blackboard, get Zoom set up, and I'm just gonna go over and make sure I got everyone's papers graded. Particularly if you handed it in before the day it was due, that's a little confusing because I usually just start looking at the day it was due. Jay, I think that might have happened with you. But they're all coming back. Now I'm just rambling. So, aha, Shania, good. Good. Yeah, so the comments on your phone, when you get a comment on a Google Doc, it's like highlighted, so you just press the highlight, and then you just press the highlight if you're using it on a mobile device. All right, so I'm looking forward to seeing some of you guys' faces on Friday, but just want to be clear, we're not taking anything away. The stream is still going to happen. Anything additional is going to be in addition, not instead of, okay? And the stuff we add is probably mostly going to be optional, okay? So if you're comfortable with the way things are and don't want to learn any new tricks, no one's asking you to, okay? If you can just show up on the stream, say hi in the chat, email me your paper, you're good, okay? I'm not going to ask you to do any more. If this is making you nervous, all this talk of new stuff. If you want more options, it's coming at you. Okay, but I'm going to sign off and because I've said all I have to say. And yeah, look for an email for me. Just this right here that I just highlighted, that's going to come to you in an email, okay? Including a link to the Purdue OWL, which will show you how to do this one. Cite your research, okay? All right, well, I miss you guys. I miss standing up in front of you guys and with the chalk. But you know, it is what it is. All right, I hope everyone's safe and healthy, and I will talk Friday. And please send me a chat via GChat. That is a decent way to get in touch with me. I have no recent chats. Okay. All right, I'm going to end the stream. Okay. Signing off. I'm going to write that here. All right. Bye, guys.